Hi, my name is Laura Burgoyne, and I'm excited to be joining together with my sister Connie Blackwood in the NOSA Unleashed podcast. Here, we want to expose the stigma surrounding mental health issues by illuminating and discussing real-life challenges and obstacles, keeping us paralyzed and fearful to move forward. Let us inspire you to believe there's more to life than what you're currently experiencing. You can rise from your despair and find hope for the future. It's time to end the silence, remove the stigma of mental health, and to pursue the path to purpose and fulfillment. We will do this together because no one stands alone. Welcome back, everyone, to the NOSA Unleashed podcast. I'm Laura Burgoyne, discussing real life topics with my sister Connie Blackwood, and I'm excited to be here this month of February 2023. Because, as we all know, February is the love month, and what better topic than to talk about love? But we're going to be talking about it in a different way, not the romantic kind of love that, you seek in relationships and those kind of things. No, it's more of the self-love, right? Because how many times do we find it easier to see the value and the purpose and the identity in others, and we lack it in ourselves? And so this month, we were focusing on that topic and just really, truly finding the treasure inside. Who are we? How much do we mean? What is our value? And so as we focus on this at NOSA Foundation for the month of February, we want to specifically talk about this subject today, and we're going to be talking about the struggle. What is the struggle within, and why is it a struggle to truly love ourselves? And so welcome, Connie, to this conversation.
Thanks for having me. And you always want to talk about where it began, right? Like, because we all have struggles, but going back to where it began will actually help give you clarity on how to deal with it. And so for me, where my struggle began, started actually in grade school with what other people said about me. So I've always been kind of a chunky person. And when I was a kid, that was the thing that kids focused on. So they always called me names, teased me, or alienated me. And so a lot of times those words really impacted me in a negative way. And by grade 3, I started isolating myself, and I'd rather read during recess than be a part of all that. So I would hide in the tires at school, and my teachers didn't like that. And they always tried to coax me out. And then when I got in trouble because I saw a bully picking on a little kid, the principal mandated that I had to help with school lunch from then on, or school recesses inside and school lunches inside. So I was no longer allowed to be reading in my tire anymore. And so I still had to be part of the ridicule because I was then serving food during lunch and to the kids that didn't have lunches and stuff. And so it was like they didn't actually understand what was going on with me in a lot of ways. And so when you have that and nobody says anything positive to you, it, like, as your peers, it's hard to believe that you're valuable. And then when your family says positive things, you think, well, they have to love me because they're my family. And so it has less impact than those around you because you expect them to say those things. And so it was really hard for me with that as my foundation to then believe that I was valuable from that point forward, because I always saw myself through the lens of what the other kids were saying about me.
Yeah, it's same that, I think our journeys are a little bit similar in that way, Connie, because for me, like, I really struggled. I was bullied as well. And, I don't even think that there was something, for you, you say it was your weight. I don't think that there was anything specific that I was bullied for. All I know is that I was brutally bullied, right? And I had no friendships, and life at home was difficult, so much conflict and so much just so much stress. And yeah, going to school and just hearing the words that people spoke over me that I was worthless and that I was meaningless and everyone hated me and they wish I hadn't been born, and like all those things. You hear them so much. You hear them like repeated over and over and over again, to the point where you start thinking, well, that must be who I am,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what happened to me, because it was just like, you know, this message is being confirmed by so many people in my life. Not that they were important people in my life, but I was having this message repeatedly spoken over me, to the point where that's what I became convinced of who I was, right? To the
Mm-hmm.
point where like literally I hated myself as a kid, as a teenager, just completely self-loathed myself. There was nothing I could see in me that was of value. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that this is something that many people struggle with. And I also identify with your story, even about, people who do know you, people who do care, family, when they try to speak the opposite. Like for me specifically, I remember by the time I was 14, I was so anxious, depressed, and suicidal. And my parents recognized that in me, and they tried to sit me down and speak truth and value into me, but I couldn't believe a single word that they said.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had become so convinced that what these other people were saying about me was true, that I thought, well, my parents are only saying this because they have to. They're my
Mm-hmm.
parents. It's their job, right? Not that it was actually true. And so even though my parents tried very hard to penetrate that deep depression I was in with, you know, speaking truth and life over me, it just never worked. Like I just could not come to the point where I believed what they had to say about me.
Yeah. And I would totally relate to that. And even later on, like my biggest thing was with family, even I was like, well, you don't know what's going on inside of me. You don't know what my thoughts are like. You don't know what my heart is like. And
Right.
I do. And so even when they would say the positive things, I'd be like, well, it does, I know the truth. You don't. And that's not true. Right.
Right.
And so I think that's the part that a lot of people don't share, right? It are those inner thoughts and those dark things that we harbor to ourselves, but they are still there. And we, and no matter how many good things there are inside of us, it's like those things are where our attention is honed, right? Like where we focus. And that's like, it's our human nature. We focus on the negative. And I heard this story once where this grade school teacher was writing math equations on the board, and it was just a simple 9 times table, right? And he gets through all of them until the 10th one, and he makes a mistake, and the kids are laughing, and he's like, what's wrong? And they're all like, you made a mistake, and they even said all the right answer. And he's like, okay, but you missed all the 9 times I did it right. And you focused on the one time I did it wrong. And that is how we are. That is our human nature. We are so zoned in to watch for the negative that we miss the positive that's been going on. And we
Right.
do that with ourselves so much. And that's why you hear so many people say, oh, I'm so hard on myself. It's true,
Right.
right? Because we miss all the positive things and we focus on those negatives. And so when other people have said things, and when their actions are making us feel those same things, and then when we believe them about ourselves, we are in the trifecta of believing that we're not worthy
Right.
to be loved. We're not valuable.
And it's funny how this all begins with a single thought, right? Like how
Mm-hmm.
slippery that slope is,
It's so
right?
true.
There is this saying, watch your thoughts, they become your
Actions.
words. Watch your words, they
Oh,
become your
yeah.
actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. And it just keeps going on, right? And it's like, how true is that? What we allow our mind to focus on, what we meditate on, what we believe, those things dictate, even who we become.
Well, yeah, because that saying goes right through to you become that as your destiny. which means a thought can determine your destiny. Wow. So if you're
Yeah.
focused on a negative thought, that's going to mess really hard with your destiny. And that's like, whoa, mind blowing, right? So why do we not focus on the positive, right? And it's just shifting to focus on those positive things about ourselves. And when we do that, we will find it easier to love ourselves because we see the value. A lot of times I think we're just blinded to the value that exists. It's not that it's not there. We're blind to it.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true. Yeah, I know because I mean, I'm currently living a state of understanding my value, but it
Mm-hmm.
was a process. Like it takes, for me, it was an instantaneous moment, but then it went into a process. But, for all of us, like we come to a place where we either need to come to a greater understanding of who we truly are and love who we are and find the treasure inside, or it's going to have the outcome that almost happened for me where I was so depressed and suicidal that I just wanted to end it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to talk more about, just the negative consequences of not having self-worth, Connie?
Well, I too became suicidal and I never even knew I was depressed, but clearly I was. Um, and to the point where like kids were like telling me exactly what they were telling you, like that I was worthless. And
Right.
they stole my bike and told me that. And so I was like, okay. And I did like, I think for me, that was like the topper on the cake was these kids didn't even know me. It's not like they went to school with me. They were like kids that were visiting the neighborhood, visiting some friends in the summertime. They stole my bike and they still thought that about me and they didn't even know me. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, what is it about me that is so unlovable that strangers believe this? Right. And I think for me, that was the thing that really struck it home. That's when I really started to be like, no, obviously there's something fundamentally wrong with me because
Right.
strangers can even see it.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me of a quote from my last book. My book's called No One Stands Alone, and the quote is, "If Satan can convince us of that the lie is the truth, it creates a wound in our life that will perpetuate till the truth is found out."
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that came to mind, Connie, was just like, when you talk about that story, even these strangers confirmed what you believed in yourself, right? And it was like to the point where, the only thing that would break through that is for God to bring you some revelation of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even the people who are supposed to be the ones you trust, you couldn't trust what they said.
That's true. And that's just it. That is a one of the key things, right? Like when you get one of those thoughts, you have to evaluate how true it was. Like, what was I actually worthless? And of course, I wasn't in the state of mind to actually process that. But now, now that I'm in a healthier place and I've gone through that healing process, when a negative thought comes into my head, I can sit there and clearly evaluate, is this true? Is what they said true? And if it's not, I can let it go, right? And not start the slippery slope, right? But at that point, I just wasn't capable of even going down that route. And so it was really cool that a person in my life actually was the catalyst for that. My cousin came in to my room and asked me to teach him sign language. And I was like, what? And I said, there's so many people in this house that can teach you this. Why me? And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't spent any time with you and I need to spend time with you before I go. And that changed everything for me because one person saw value in me that they chose me to teach them. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, if one person can see that there's something about me worth being around for, then I'm valuable. And something I've been believing is wrong.
Right.
And it broke something in me.
Yeah, so that was like one of those first glimmers of hope in your path of healing and your path of finding who you truly are. That's awesome.
Exactly. So God has tended to use people to help me in this process. So don't alienate yourself from people when you're feeling this way, because God may be trying to use the people in your life to help you through it.
Mm-hmm.
When we
Yeah, and I
isolate
think
ourselves, we're blocking ourselves from their assistance.
for sure. And I think also, like looking back on my story, I'm like, if only I could have gotten myself to a place of saying, okay, all of these things I'm being told elsewhere about how negative and how awful I am,
Mm-hmm.
put that in one category, but then all of the positives that my parents and my family are trying to tell me, like
Mm-hmm.
which group of people do I trust more?
Yeah.
Right? And so sometimes if we can come to the point where it's like, okay, I trust my parents more than I trust like strangers or kids at school or teachers or whoever, and then rely not rely but like start to consider, are could maybe be some of those things be true, and help that kind of open that door, kind of like for you, Connie, your
Mm-hmm.
cousin came in and it was like finally someone valued you. Because I look back, if only I could have heard the words of my parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe I would have, come out of my depression a lot sooner than I did. But I was just so bound in those beliefs that I had no purpose, I had no worth, that I was useless, and that I would never amount to anything. So I just want to say to anyone who's listening to this podcast, like, where are you? Where are you in your journey? Are you where Connie and I used to be, where you struggle with your value, you struggle with self-loathing, you struggle with just believing the negative that might be being spoken over you, or that you even perceive yourself based on your own failures or perceived things that you haven't succeeded at? Or maybe you're on your journey of healing. Maybe you're on your journey of discovery of who you are and that treasure that is inside. And if you're on that journey, I'd encourage you to keep going. Keep
Mm-hmm.
keep sharing with those closest to you, and keep being vulnerable, and even asking others, what do they see in you? Help
Mm-hmm.
them journey with you in this process of discovery. And if you are on the other side where Connie and I are now, and we're not saying that we don't ever struggle with this, because we have moments where it's like we have to go through that process of, okay, is this true or is this not true, and really evaluate things. But in general, you have a strong foundation of self-worth, then I would encourage you to reach out to those in your life who are struggling, who
Mm-hmm.
are not in that place, who have no self-worth and have no sense of who they are, and are just inundated by the negative. I'd really encourage you to reach out to them, because sometimes in life things happen to us, and we have no control over them. And it's only when we have a solid understanding of who we are and the value that we carry, that then we can process those things and move forward through them. Otherwise, those difficult things can even, damage our self-worth and our identity and our value even more.
Yeah, and when our value gets chipped away, then we start to love ourselves less, because we are losing sight of any value in ourselves. We're losing sight of anything good in ourselves, and we're believing all of these things. And as we love ourselves less, it is harder and harder to receive love from others. It's harder to love others. And we end up isolating ourselves and withdrawing from life in a lot of ways. And that's why it's so important to catch it early. It's so important to catch it in its early stages, because it goes quick from just that thought to then becoming like a person who doesn't want relationships because it makes them feel worse about themselves rather than better. And
Right.
then the other thing is just a lot of times when you're in this struggle, you feel like you're alone. I can guarantee you're not alone. There are lots of people who feel this way. There are a lot of people who struggle with this. And so you're not alone in this, and it is real, but there is hope. Do not
Mm-hmm.
stay there. We have resources available. There's Laura's book, there's my book, there's our webinar series that has been talking about this in the month of January and will again this month. And I would really encourage you to access those resources if you need them, because they are there for you. And we will list them in the description on this podcast, because we care about you and we don't want to see you in the midst of this struggle. And another thing is, when I have been struggling with this, even now, having Laura as my person that I can go to, that when I'm struggling, I go to her and she can like speak life into me, speak those truths into me. And I can go, yes, that's true. Yes, that's right. Okay, I can let this other stuff go. And I do the same for her. So you need to find some trusted person in your life
Mm-hmm.
that is invested in you, invested in seeing you succeed, invested in seeing you walk in health. That is somebody that you want in your life. And then you can do the same for them. And it helps immensely.
Yeah. Thank you, Connie. That was amazing. And it's so true. Yeah. Find that one person or a few people who can really partner with you and speak and journey with you into this to help you find your true value. And so I thank you all for joining us this week. Connie and I will be continuing this conversation next week, where we're going to specifically be talking about our rescue. How did we come out of being anxious, depressed, suicidal, having no value, no self-worth? Like, what was our journey? What was the catalyst for change? And what did that look like for us? And so we're going to be sharing that next time on the NOSA Unleashed podcast. We hope that you join us again. And just check out the podcast notes for all the links to the different resources that we've mentioned on this episode. So see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time on the NOSA Unleashed podcast.